Hello, everybody. Right, we are getting back into this year 4 book that was recommended by Miss Jo Mack, our Grange librarian, and actually I got more into it in chapter 2. So let's see what chapter 3 holds. Emily Sparks and the Friendship Fiasco. And this chapter 3 is called Dead Dolphins and Sworn Enemies. Still Tuesday. I get into school and there's the usual fuss and racket going on. Gracie Mackenzie's packed lunch has exploded over Daniel Waller's numeracy homework, and she's desperately trying to wipe up a strawberry drinky yogurt with her PE top. Daniel is crying. He's very sensitive. Once he cried all afternoon because he realized he had odd socks on. I'm trying not to think about gross out Gavin, but this is not easy, as he and Elfie Belfour, who's just as annoying but at least his mum makes him clean his teeth, are having a loudest burp competition into each other's faces. This is the sort of thing they do all day for fun. I get Wavy Cat out of my bag and put him on Bella's side of the table. He waves his left paw at me, and I look at his little smiley face and feel sad and happy all mixed together. Everyone is scrabbling about trying to find their homework. Our school has a new policy: homework every night. This is because we have a new head teacher, Mr. Meakin, who's completely strict. Before Mr. Meakin, we had a head teacher vacancy. This means they couldn't find anyone to be in charge, so the teachers were allowed to run a bit wild. But that's all changed now. Miss Lovetofts, our teacher, says it's a headache trying to keep on top of all the new homework. But I don't know what she's worrying about. She doesn't have to do it all, does she? Amy Lee Langer and Yaya Yasmin are talking in the corner, probably trying to come up with new and exciting ways to make people miserable. Well, Amy Lee is probably trying to come up with new ways, and Yaya Yasmin is just agreeing with her. Nicole and Babette, they're not actually French, but their mum wants them to be twins, are arguing about the Eiffel Tower colouring in sheets for their club. They run their own lunchtime French club and force all the little kids to count to 10 and say merci and bonjour. Although I sometimes think that Nicole and Babette don't really speak a lot of French themselves. Just what their mum makes them learn in the car on the way to school. The biggest crowd, though, is around Susanna's table. She's showing off the little matchbox coffin she's made for her dolphin rubber. There'll be a short funeral service today at lunchtime, she says. I'll be burying him behind the picnic tables. Oh, poor dolphin, says small Emily B. Thank goodness Daniel Waller is still wiping his homework and hasn't heard, or he would start howling all over again. I could go and join in, but I don't want to. It's too noisy today, and I'm not in the mood to discuss dead rubbers. Anyway, I don't like Susanna. At the start of the term, she had a birthday party and didn't invite me, and it was at Roller World. I was the only girl in the whole class who didn't get an invitation, well, except for Amy Lee Langer, and no one invites her to parties. Not unless you really want to get in a food fight with the rock and roller chicken dippers. Susanna gave out all the invitations at break time, and I couldn't believe it when there wasn't one in my tray too. Then when I was in the toilets, I heard her say to Babette, I'm not inviting Emily because she's a total pain. So I didn't invite Susanna to my cinema party a few days later. Since then, I've realized that she is very annoying and very not interesting, so I probably wouldn't have gone to her party even if she did ask me. In fact, she's now my sworn enemy. It's a total pity she's not nice, however, because her best friend, Mina Begum, also left last term, and we could have sorted out each other's best friend vacancy. Except I don't want a new best friend anyway. I just want Bella to come back and sit in the empty seat next to me. I make Wavy Cat's paw move again, and I think if you could just get on with the good luck thing, it would be great. The door swings open, and in comes Mrs. Lovetofts. Good morning, class, she says, all bright and cheerful. Welcome to another lovely day at Juniper Road Primary. She's always bright and cheerful, which is not normal teacher sort of behavior, I know, but she seems to get away with it. She's quite old and has lots of hair, which is always escaping from her hair clips. She's not very good at controlling the class, so she's lucky that I'm able to control myself. At least there's one less person for her to worry about. Homework books to the front, please. Straight away, Amy Lee Langer and gross out Gavin shoot their hands up in the air. Amy Lee says, I haven't had time to do it because I've been ill. What she means is she hadn't had time to bully anyone into letting her copy theirs. Mrs. Lovetoft says, "All right, Amy Lee, try to do it tonight. She's far too soft on her. It's no wonder Amy Lee's behaviour problems are not improving." Gross out smirks. "I didn't know we had homework, miss." "Why didn't you know, Gavin?" "Dunno, miss, but we have homework every night, don't we, Gavin?" "Dunno, miss." "What were you doing when I gave out the homework?" Mrs. Lovetoft said with a sigh. "Dunno, miss." I can see this might go on for quite some time, so I'm looking around trying to find something to be interested in when I see, through the glass panel in the classroom door, Mr. Meakin, the head teacher, standing outside. Now, this is not unusual. Mr. Meakin is the sort of head teacher who's always popping up in unexpected places, trying to catch the teachers out for smiling too much or drinking tea in the classroom. Then I notice the top of a blonde head below Mr. Meakin's elbow. Mr. Meakin opens the door a little bit and peers in. I'm a bit worried for Mrs. Lovetoft in case she's looking too cheerful, but it's okay because she's just in the middle of saying, "What do you think will help you to remember, Gavin?" As if she doesn't already know the answer. And now I can see that the blonde head under Mr. Meakin's elbow is attached to her body. And it is the body of a girl. She's wearing a red miniskirt and sparkly tights, which is not at all normal for a Tuesday. She pokes her head into the classroom and says, "This is year 6? Okay, I guess I'll just have to get used to it." Get used to it? This can only mean two things. Either she's a new girl or she's a new teacher who's really short and looks about 10. I'm just thinking it's most likely that she's a new girl when Mr. Meakin shuts the door again and they go off. Mrs. Lovetoft doesn't even notice. Really, she should be more aware of what is happening in her classroom. I don't have any more wandering time left, however, as Mrs. Lovetoft has given up explaining homework to Gavin until tomorrow morning, and is now talking about Tudors, though I'm sure my mum could teach her a thing or two about 16th century living conditions. Mrs. Lovetoft is very excited because we're going on a Tudor Times time travel trip next week. We are going to Ickwell Hall, where apparently people hang about wearing costumes pretending to be real Tudor people. Although I think if they were doing it properly, they would all be lying around pretending to be dead, because that's what the Tudors are. It is a bit annoying because Ickwell Hall is only about 20 minutes away, and everyone knows the best bit about going on a school trip is the bus journey. But Mrs. Lovetoft is very enthusiastic. "Everyone will need a partner," she says, "as you will be doing a lot of work together on the day. It'll be very exciting, living history." Everything makes Mrs. Lovetoft excited. She gets excited about music lessons, assembly, school lunch. Once she even clapped her hands when Joshua Radcliffe was sick in class. History is Mrs. Lovetoft's favourite thing of all. Really, I can't see the point in it. Future would be a better thing to learn about. Then I could find out all sorts of things like, will my baby sister ever get a name? And will Bella's parents ever come to realise that making goat's cheese is not normal for people? I don't know who's going to be my Tudor's time travel trip partner. I don't even want one. There's only Susanna spare, and I'm not being partners with her. Unfortunately, Elfie Balfour won't be able to join us on the trip because he has to go and visit his nan in her special old people's home, Mrs. Lovetoft says. Elfie's nan is actually in prison for 2 weeks for refusing to pay her TV license. It was on the news and everything. So Mrs. Lovetoft is saying that means Gavin won't have a partner. Now, who can I pair Gavin up with? Too late. I realise what disaster is about to happen. Mrs. Lovetoft looks around the class and catches my eye. I know exactly what she's going to say. "Ah, yes, Emily Sparks, you don't have a partner now, do you?" Miss, I just can't seem to make any proper words come out. Why has she picked on me? I don't want a partner, and I definitely don't want gross out Gavin. Finally, I blurt out, "But what about Susanna?" I look over to Susanna's table, but it's empty. Then I see a pair of white socks and black shoes sticking out from under her chair. I have to admit she's quick. She must have made a dive for it. Who, Mrs. Lovetoft says? She's also very forgetful. "Oh, yes, Susanna. Where is Susanna?" Susanna wriggles out backwards and then stands up and gives me a seriously super evil look, worse than a death stare. "Just dropped my pencil, miss," she says. "Oh, yes, very well then. You can be partners with Susanna," Mrs. Lovetoft says. "No way," says Susanna and I together, glaring at each other across the classroom. Before Mrs. Lovetoft can say any more, There is a wail from the other side of the classes. Daniel Waller realizes he's forgotten his drinks bottle. Oh, never mind, Mrs. Lovestoff said. We'll sort out partners tomorrow. I have managed to avoid gross out Gavin all day, and I'm hoping everyone might forget about the lift home. Gavin is brilliant at forgetting homework, PE kit, nose wiping, zipping up his trousers, you name it, he forgets it. I think if I just keep quiet long enough, he might go home and maybe his mum will forget to. Then I could look all lost and abandoned in the playground, and Mrs. Brace, the secretary, will have to phone my mum, and she'll come dashing up to the school reception, all red-faced and guilty, with the baby slung across her back in an old shawl. Mrs. Brace will have stern words with her. All the parents are scared of Mrs. Brace. I'll forgive Mum, of course, after a couple of days, but I should know better. Mrs. Lovestoff has just handed out the letter about the Tudor Times time travel trip when she picks up a note and says, "Oh yes, Emily, don't forget you're going home with Gavin tonight." There is a loud crash as small Emily B falls off her chair and a bit of a fuss picking her up again. I mean, Emily Sparks, says Mrs. Lovestoft. The worst bit is when I hear Susanna giggle. I try for dignified and sensible. I look straight ahead and walk out to the cloakroom to collect my coat. Then I remember I haven't got a coat today because my parents have more or less abandoned me. So I walk out of school to where gross-out Gavin's mum is waving to me from beside their pink camper van. Okay, so that was chapter 3. That was quite fun hearing about that head teacher, Mr. Meekin. I can tell you, I don't really like his head teacher style. Anyway, see you again soon for chapter 4.